You're listening to the Big Sci Fi Podcast, the biggest sci fi podcast in the galaxy, with Adina, Brian, Chris, and Steve. We're a part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and we're having more fun than ever celebrating our 10th season and 4 years of friendship talking all things science fiction. Calling all sci-fi fans, you're invited to the party. Let's have some fun.
What makes a buffet so great? Seconds. That's right. First time through the buffet, you kind of get the lay of the land. You look it over. You decide what looks good to try and what is best to avoid. And on the second pass, now that's when you really get into what is available to you, and that might be the best of the best. Now, here at the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, we do like our seconds, and in some cases, thirds as well. What has this got to do with today's interviewee? Well, everything. In the past, we've had the great opportunity to interview John Billingsley and Doug Drexler 3 times, Mike and Denise Okuda 2 times, as well as Nami Malamud, composer extraordinaire for Strange New Worlds, and Jeffrey Morris, as well, just to name a few. And with each additional interview, we got to know a little bit more about these individuals, and the same applies to today's interview as well. So without further ado, which I heaped on the last time when he was on this podcast, let me introduce or welcome our 1 degree of Gene Roddenberry, Rod Roddenberry. Cue the cheering from the audience. Yay! But before we can continue, here are the ABCs of podcasters. A for Adina. You can say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you. B for Brian.
Hey, it's Brian from Ohio. How's it going, everybody?
C for Chris.
Hey, everybody. I had a great buffet experience last weekend. It was amazing.
And apostrophe S for myself, Steve. So without that silliness out of the way, let us welcome to the podcast the effervescent Rod Roddenberry. Are you effervescing right now?
I am. I'm brimming with effervescence. Absolutely. I would like to just throw my hat into the ring and say, at the buffet, you always stay away from the sushi.
Yes.
Always?
Always
Really?
stay away from
I
the
love
sushi.
it.
Unless it is a sushi buffet, unless you go to the sushi buffet.
Agreed. But I mean, I'm just thinking like hometown buffet. You
Okay.
probably
Yes,
not the
yes.
place to get your sushi.
Yeah,
Very
you
true.
know, it's been there for a while, and
It's
yeah.
roulette. I mean, it might be okay, but do you really want to take that chance?
It may have sat there a little too long.
Just a bit.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
One of
But
my
it doesn't
food
kill ya.
one of my food mottos is I have at least 2, but one of them is I'll eat at a buffet any day, and then I'll try anything fried at least once. That's
Okay.
so.
When-
anyways, neither here nor there.
There used to be a buffet out here on the West Coast called Sir George's, and when I was a little kid, I would go there. And there was, again, I could eat my own body weight if I wanted to when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And so we were there one time, and my dad's like, "You think your son can eat a lot of food? My son can out-eat him. Go ahead, Steve, show him how much you can eat." And I went, "Okay, that sounds great. I'll do it." I don't know if I regretted it afterwards, but I sure loved it.
Yeah.
And that's
I've
about it for buffets, okay? Because
I've
we're
had
here
my-
to talk about science fiction, and hopefully, you know, that you never end up the
Listen,
buffet
there could
on
be
an
science
alien
fiction at a
spacecraft.
buffet. There
Huh?
could be science fiction at a buffet. I mean, you never know.
What do they serve at the academy? There's got to be like a buffet there for the
Definitely.
cadets, you know? We just never saw it happen.
Yeah, true. We also never saw, well, I don't want to say never. I mean, until recently, we never saw anyone go to the bathroom either.
Did we see that recently? I'm trying to remember this.
I'm pretty sure they had that. If it wasn't Starfleet Academy, or maybe it's not out yet. Never mind.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay.
well, technically,
spoiler alert,
if you want to
kids.
say it
Spoiler
yourself,
alert.
I
I'm
think
not
we saw
sure.
that in not really, but in Final Frontier. I think the chair that Kirk sits on is supposed to be a toilet or something. I read that.
Is it?
Right?
Yeah.
Or read
And
it somewhere. I don't remember where I read it, but someone was like, "Oh yeah, that's actually meant to be a toilet. It's not meant just to be."
No.
It was just a plank that came out of the wall.
You're right.
Come on.
No.
and the one thing that Christina, the one of the 4 crew members on the Artemis 2 mission did, and it's the same thing that Trip had to do on Enterprise, explain how the toilet works.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that might be the only toilet reference ever in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And with that
Wow.
out of the way.
Wow.
That out of the
Okay.
way.
So
the buffets,
Adina,
the toilets. We're
Yeah.
we're off to an interesting start this evening.
all right. So Adina, I'm going to open up and let you chat because the last time we were together, you really wanted to talk about this certain lady of Star Trek history that if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be having a conversation today right now with this particular gentleman. So Adina, I yield
Sure.
the floor to you.
Sure, thanks. And yeah, this is so I've become, I want to say, even more fascinated with your mom, with Majel Barrett Roddenberry over the years as I've come to appreciate the character she played as Luoxana, because I'm getting to that age. And so when the show, when Next Generation came on, I was a teenager. She was the mom figure, and now I'm the mom figure. And so it changes things, and it makes me even more interested in, the woman who played her. And I'd really like to know, I would say, because when fans talk about her, they often talk about her as, the first lady of Star Trek. But when you think of her, what's one of the first things you wish people understood about Majel the person, and your mom, maybe not Majel the icon?
I can't remember, how much I may have said on the other show, on your last show. So I hope I'm not repeating myself.
I don't think we talked about her much.
No.
I don't think we talked about her at all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she is an unsung hero in very personal ways for me. Even though, we were constantly arguing about things, even into my, late 20s and 30s. Just being around her, I would revert to that 15-year-old in terms of my maturity and mentality. I've seen it happen. I know that happens to a lot of people when you go home and see your parents. Doesn't matter if you're 20 or 30. Just that those triggers just happen again, and if you could hear yourself, you're like, "But mom." But that aside, in hindsight, as I've gotten older and matured and now have my own son, she was not the glue, but she was the rock solid foundation that kept my father's image alive after he left. Meaning, she took over where he left off. She went out and went to not just conventions, but she did the circuit in terms of doing lectures, and she took his old speeches and she rewrote them to, I don't want to say fit her own narrative. Her narrative was to carry on his, but she brought it into her voice and brought her experiences into it. And that was something I didn't appreciate as a kid. I was in college and just out of college, and I again, seeing her through the little kid eyes that I did, just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved my father so much, and that she was really that rock, and that's why we butted heads, because we were both in our own way. Even though I was young, I was trying to become an adult, and that was when I was discovering how incredible the Star Trek legacy was, and I didn't want to follow in my father's footsteps per se, but I was really discovering it. And as I was trying to interpret it and have conversations with her as to what Star Trek meant or what fans meant or whatever the case was, we would be both saying the same thing, but we would be arguing about it from different points of view. And anyhow, I think many kids go through that in their own way. But I don't want to tell a happier story, or at least a better story. My mother was Luoxana. They didn't have that character and go through the casting and be like, oh, you know what? Majel Barrett Roddenberry would be the right one for that. They knew that she was going to be in it. There was no discussion, I'm sure. because my father was, he was heading that ship, at least early on. And so they made the character just fit her. And I'll say this, you can boo me, and probably because I'm too close. I was never a fan of her acting. I just say maybe I just saw my mom in it. I don't know what it was, but I never thought her acting was very good. I thought it was a little over dramatic, but they made that character, Luoxana, over dramatic. They over the top, and fiery, her own opinion. And she was like that in real life. My parents were a member of a golf club back in the 70s and 80s. And, that's a whole nother discussion, because golf clubs in LA, what they allowed and didn't allow and all that. One part of it was they had the men's grill on Thursday. This was back when you could do that, whether you agree with it or not. Thursdays was the men's grill, no women allowed. Well, she said, you know what, fuck that. And she went in there, she went down, and she would sit like all the old men sitting there with their cigars telling, I already said it, the F word. Can I swear, or am I going to bring your rating down?
You might raise them.
No, just be yourself. Just be yourself.
Dick jokes and women jokes and tit jokes and, just being the men of the era.
Mm-hmm.
She'd go down and she would tell the dirtiest jokes and have them laughing. And they said, you know what? No one else but she can come here.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
Held her own with a bunch of, these old conservative white men. But that was her personality. She was a sailor. She would say what was on her mind to whoever was in front of her. She knew the right audience, of course. She didn't just go out to the fans and start using that kind of humor there, but she could turn it on when she needed to. And that was really what I knew. I mean, at home, she was the same way. When I was a teenager and was interested in girls and stuff like that, I remember junior high. I don't think I've ever told this story. Junior high, we were going to a dance or a party, and I had, 4 of my friends in the car, and she was driving us. It was before we could drive. And right as we get out of the car, I said, all right, pick us up, whatever. She said, I don't care, whatever you do, just don't get them pregnant. And my friends razzed me for years after that. They still recall it. Like, remember when your mom told us, not to do that? And but that, Luoxana was her. I mean, it really, really was. And that, I have to say, that's one of the things that I certainly miss her because she was my mom. But that's one of the things I really miss about her. She could light up a room with that sort of personality. And I regret not seeing it then, because she's a badass bitch. I would have loved to hang out with her now.
Yeah, and that's exactly I feel like what I've been seeing as I get to a certain age. There is this like cultural, I don't know, stereotype phenomenon where us women, as we get into certain age in our 40s and 50s, that we become invisible, and society expects us to shrink and be invisible and all these things. And that, again, as I'm about to be 52, and so I appreciate seeing characters that are, and to know that she was like this in real life, like, also warms my heart, because we shouldn't, we should be taking up our space and not shrink ourselves and be who we are and be seen, be heard, and all these things. So I love to hear that she was like that, kind of like, it is almost like truly like ahead of her time, which is wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, and not to go too deep, but I mean, if we're talking about her, and again, my father gets the spotlight all the time, and she is the unsung hero in many ways, because she was there supporting him. Like, the industry, every industry sucks, but the entertainment industry also sucks. And I think my father, having this love of Star Trek and love of humanity and love of the future, and then working with studio executives who are often, not all the time, complete retards when it comes to not just their industry, but the world. Not all of them. I would just say most. Certainly back then, when he'd have a show, I don't want to say taken away, but, when he wasn't executive producer anymore, or had to be executive consultant, or they brought on someone else, or, it was Paramount who owned it. So, they got to, when they needed to, overrule him. And I think that, that really was tough for him. And she was there to console him. I didn't see it happen, but I know it happened.
Mhm.
And so she deserves, without her, I don't know if my father would have fought for as long as he did.
Wow.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I think the fans in their own, like hearing you talk, Rod, I didn't know all that stuff, but I think intuitively that's part of why she is so beloved. It's not just that she's Gene Roddenberry's wife. It's that there's you could just see that she was a very strong woman, very strong personality, incredibly funny. But also, I mean, on screen at least, she could portray being very tender too. I assume that was true in real life as well. And so,
Another story.
yeah, so it's I think that's something why she is beloved by the fans. You get
Yeah.
that sense that she was that for Gene, and that she was just a big part of that, and that's something why we love her.
Yeah, no, she was definitely the mother of Star Trek in the sense that, she again, she also knew that fandom saved Star Trek, back in
Mm,
the late 60s and all that.
Mm-hmm.
She people have heard me say this 1,000 times. At the conventions, when she would go somewhere, she wouldn't go into the fan autograph room to sign. She would stay at her table and she would
mm,
stay there for hours. And she wouldn't just sign next person. She would engage with them, for hours at a time. And I'm sure she got exhausted, and I'm sure she had to put on a little bit of that convention charm. But she knew that it was important, and it certainly wasn't about the money, you know. So again, I can't sing her praises enough in hindsight, since you
right,
brought it
right.
up, and
Mhm.
I understand this is a part of it, a part of our discussion today. But we can talk. I could, we'll go to a restaurant, we'll go to a bar. I could talk for another hour if you wanted to. She also had huge walls, and she'd been through some
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
shit in her life that to this day I'm not 100% sure of or know of. I don't know
Mhm.
anything about her background.
Mm,
Part of her, I think, tried to bury her past, and I've heard some stories about some terrible things that happened, and we'll just leave it at that. So,
yeah.
again, a lot of people have tragedy and difficult things in their life. She certainly did too, and she did her best she could to mask it and move forward.
Yeah. So I do have to on your comment about being at conventions. I did have an encounter with her in would have been like 1991 or 92. And I have to say again, I was too young to appreciate the moment I had, and I was too shy. So I was at a convention. It was a creation convention in New York City because those are the ones that I was able to attend. And it was more than just Star Trek. They had guests from I don't know what else, but I wasn't interested in the I don't know what else. So at one point, there's some guest in the main room, and so the vendor room is empty. And now back then, I hardly got autographs from people, mostly because I could barely afford to get to the convention to begin with. So I didn't have a lot of extra money. But for some reason, so in this moment, because she was at her table by herself, because like I said, everyone was off in the room with whatever the guest was that I wasn't interested in. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get an autograph. And I was very shy as a teenager. I was 17. I was super shy. So when she asked me my name and she asked me how to spell my name, so I have above me on the wall right up
I see it.
there,
I see
and
it.
it says to Adina, but it's spelled like Addie, and it's a completely crazy, ridiculous spelling and everything. But I wish I had like had the wherewithal to actually have a conversation with her because I probably could have in that moment, but I was so shy. But also, again, as the 52-year-old woman, I appreciate like the character way more than I possibly could have as a 17-year-old.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
With
yep,
age, often, not all the time, comes more wisdom and hindsight. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, for television in the early 60s to have your mom playing the second in command
Yeah.
of a starship in the original pilot episode, and then changed her character entirely to being this very soft-spoken, sweet character of Nurse Chapel. Really, I mean,
that wasn't by choice,
Obviously.
yeah. But it showed her range to go from those types of that, and then to end up as crazy a character as Troy's mom could possibly be. That shows real range of acting, and thank goodness.
And the ship's computer.
Yeah,
and always the voice of the computer. Yeah. How did that end up? How did she end up with the voice of the computer? Do you ever know there's a story behind that?
I don't know. I assume my father was overcompensating because when the executives said that, they couldn't have her on board, I know he gave her a lesser role, put the woman in the corner, quiet her up, she can't be leading people. I don't know this. I would assume it was like, okay, we're going to give you again the voice of the. I don't know. That could have always been there. Maybe I'm just making that up.
Yeah, so iconic. And like one episode I've been rewatching a lot because my wife and we listen to DSI at night. It's our sleep time show. We listen to their first Forsaken, which is usually in the morning, and I love it because she's so what you expect. But then when she has such a private moment with Odo, where she's like, Odo, it's okay, like. This is me without the wig. It's okay to like let your guard down. I will take care of you while you're trying to regenerate since you can't get to your bucket. And I just love how sweet she is. She can be outgoing and super over dramatic, but also just really sweet. And I think that's such a great balance that we were able to see with her. So I don't know if the episode's well received or how people feel about it, but I think it's such an underrated moment for her.
Yeah, no, I've had that discussion before too, and absolutely. I don't want to say I never saw that at home. She was there for me, and she certainly loved me and took care of me. But I think seeing that, I was like, oh, I don't remember her doing that for me. Not saying she wasn't a great woman, just
right. Yeah. No, we appreciate your candidness with that. I mean that's you are one of a million people who have parents who are very one way when whatever their job is, whatever their title is, and then the kids have a different experience at home, and that does cause some hurt or scarring or or just wonderment, like I'd love to see that. It may not be hurting or scarring, it may just be, I feel disappointed I didn't get to see that part of them at home, or they didn't allow that part of their personality to come out. And so I think it's probably helpful to other people to hear you say that, and talk about it actually.
Well, this is, I guess we won't turn this into my therapy session, but you bring up another thing, and I'm only slightly changing the subject. I remember that similar feeling when I did my documentary Trek Nation a decade plus ago, no, more than that. And I interviewed Will Wheaton. And, when Will Wheaton came to Next Gen, he was a kid, I think 14, something to that effect. And my father took him under he tells the story, my father took him under his wing, and, and would talk to him and make sure that the crew would treat him as an equal, as a cast member. And he tells a great story about how they were at a convention. And of course, Wesley, the character, wasn't really liked too much in the first couple seasons. And apparently they were at a convention, and my father overheard some people making fun of the character Wesley Crusher. And my father called them out on it in front of Will and said, this is my character. I made him based on me and all, whatever. And Will's just like, holy crap, your father stuck up for me, like that. Yeah. I've heard him say it wasn't his father, but he was like a father. And I've heard fans in some way, depending on what's gone on in their lives, mention a father-like figure of with my father. And I remember being young and hearing these stories and feeling very jealous. Very jealous. Like, wait a second. I don't want to say he's never stuck up for me. He did at times, but I don't have that story, and that story made me jealous. And I realized as I got older and I heard more of these stories, that what it did was I could understand it as I have all these brothers and sisters.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Very comforting way to look at it, and it's truly the way I feel now. I mean, this is I love talking about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
My brothers and sisters.
Right. And it is so helpful. I have found that it is helpful to talk about stuff like this. It just brings healing to others. It helps others say, I have that same experience or similar. Maybe I need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the great things about our humanity and about conversations like this, where you open up to people, and sometimes you don't know why you're opening up to a total stranger. It could be it could be any situation, and lo and behold, that person has a similar story, and the universe brought you together, or however you want to look at that, and you just got to help be a part of someone's healing journey. Help them on their way, and so. That's part of what Star Trek is about too, listening to each other and learning from each other and doing our best not to make each other feel like freaks if we've got a different story.
Yeah.
Well said. Empathy all the way. Anyhow, so is this a call-in line? Are people going to call in with their?
Hey, hello. This is Clyde from New Jersey, and I got a question for you. What's going on with Star Trek? I mean, are they going to have some new shows besides what we got going now, or what? Because if not, I'm going to cancel my Paramount subscription and just watch Apple TV. They got lots of good sci-fi on that Apple TV show.
Oh my gosh. No spoilers for All Mankind. I'm only halfway through the season.
Yeah, no, Steve, I assume that was a real question because I think it was on the list.
Yeah, the real question is, what do you think of the current status of science fiction on television?
Oh, science fiction on television.
Yeah, I mean, because we have Paramount, we got Apple. I don't think really Peacock does much in the way of sci-fi. I mean, and I don't have Peacock, so I can't really say, but from and not just only television, but there was this little movie that came out a couple of weeks ago about a guy and his friend Rocky, and his other friend wasn't named Bullwinkle.
The Ryan Gosling movie?
That Ryan Gosling film. What do you think about because you are on the inside of what's happening in entertainment. Yeah, I know you're saying like
More than the four of us.
More than the four of us. Okay. So let's if you want to chat, let's first talk about Project Hail Mary. What did you think of it?
As long as we come back to the Future Vision X Prize.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love Project Hail Mary. I've seen it in the theater 3 times.
Oh wow!
I'm sure people have seen it more, but I mean,
oh yeah,
I truly do love it because it's my kind of science fiction. It's and this dovetails beautifully into Future Vision X Prize. What I think, where do I go with this? There's a lot of sci-fi out there, but I would say a majority of it is pessimistic, is looking at the worst of us, or maybe the real side of us, which right now might be the worst of us. Star Trek isn't that. It's not supposed to be that. Mm-hmm. It never was. Yes, you can argue it's too Pollyannish, it's utopian, it's all this. Fine, yeah, show us our better selves. Give us something to aspire to. Absolutely. That's kind of what Star Trek is. That's why I think it's been around for 60 years, not because it's good sci-fi, but because we want to watch it. We want to come away feeling good. We want to come away saying, you know what? I never thought of it that way. That's a good point. Or like, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. I now have empathy for the bad guy. Star Trek's not supposed to have, I'm not saying never, but it's not about having a bad guy. It's about having characters that have differing points of view that give the audience an opportunity to try to understand and see those points of view and have an understanding. They can disagree with the fact that the quote unquote bad guy came to the solution of having to kill everyone, I mean, Thanos is a great example, not Star Trek.
Mhm.
You understood Thanos. You disagree with his choice of how to solve his problem, of course. I hope most of us do.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
I've met some people who don't disagree with his
I
choice.
don't
okay,
It's
live in that
disagree.
world.
disturbing.
Wow. Okay.
No, I understand. But I do like when the quote unquote bad guys have depth and have character, and you go like, you know what? In your shoes, I can see your point of view. And so Star Trek did a great job with the Horta and Devil in the Dark. It's my favorite example. I use
Yeah.
rock monsters killing people. You find out that the rock monster is a mother protecting its young, and we're there mining its eggs or killing its children.
Right.
What would a mother do? Yes, it would defend its children.
Mhm.
Who's the bad guy? Who's the devil in the dark? We are. And that is just fucking brilliant in terms of storytelling. And I think that is an example of perfect Star Trek storytelling. I'm not saying the best episode. I'm not saying the best acting. I'm just saying the core of what Star Trek should be is in there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that I agree with that.
And when I think
wholeheartedly.
about conflict resolution, which is what I studied in school, I did a master's degree in it, and I think about mediation and this idea that, oh, you should try and work at a solution that benefits everybody. I
Yes.
always think of the miners and the Horta working together. It's like, hey, we made a mistake. We were killing your kids, not realizing it. There was blood on both sides, but it's our fault. But now we can work together and have the solution where we will protect your kids and you can help us mine the planet because it's what you're doing anyways. And that's beautiful. So great. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, no longer seen as a horrible monster, but as an intelligent life form that can be communicated with.
Exactly.
My God, if we could do that with each other. I'm furthest thing, I'm just as bad as we all are. I hear of certain people, maybe certain politicians and leaders, and I go, what a freaking moron. You got to take that time to step back and be like, you know what? They're a product of their environment and they see things differently. And while I may disagree with everything they do, I can't wish horrible things on them. They are human, and
Yes.
and maybe there's a terrible example, but maybe there's a chance to have communication one day. Anyhow, that's
Well, no,
I don't know
that's
where I'm
not
going
that's
with that
not
one.
that's not terrible at all. I mean, this is one of the things that I often, am saying too is, I might not understand. What I see a lot is people calling each other evil when they don't have the same view.
Yeah.
And I can't do that. I can't get behind that because it's just because someone might have, say, voted differently from me. I don't understand it. And that's exactly the key is I don't understand. I don't understand why they made a choice, but I don't understand the world from their point of view.
Yeah.
And that's it. I won't call that evil because likewise, the same, I don't want anyone calling me evil for my choice.
There's a professor, and I can't remember the name of the university, but they have debates. And what he does is he started having both sides of the debate come to his house to sit down at a table to have a meal together before the debate. So they could share stories, learn about each other, so that when it came time to debate, they understood each other better. They didn't get personal. They didn't attack each other personally. They kept it to the issue, and they showed a greater respect for each other during the debate. We need to eat food, guys. We need to sit at tables more and do that and still have the hard discussions. There's so many hard discussions we need to have that we're not going to agree upon, but at least we can see each other as human beings who have dignity and value and worth. And we may vehemently disagree on maybe everything, but let's agree this planet is ours and we need to live on it peacefully. And so,
which brings us back to Project Hail Mary about saving our planet.
Yes.
Thank you. Trying to get back to where we
not
started
intentional,
from.
not intentional.
But it is a remarkable buddy film, and it is. I think some people argue that I read the book and saw the movie and I'm not happy because this wasn't in it. And other people see the movie and not read the book, and then they go, now I got to read the book because I want to see what 470 pages can yield. But above all, it is a wonderful film that leaves people feeling good. And like you said, that's what we need. We need things that make people feel good. And that's really it.
Yeah.
And
And then two people coming together that have no real commonalities and figuring out how to work together and essentially solve the problem. And it's such a good feel good ending. Like I'll say, like I love watching movies with my wife. I talk about this all the time. But like when she gets stressed and she's gripping my hand, I know she's engaged with the movie. And then when Rock, like, are we getting into spoilers? I don't know if we're getting into spoilers.
Look, the movie's been out for a while. If people haven't seen it.
So when we think that Rocco's dead, like she was just so stressed out. But when he comes back, like, and he's back and he's breathing it, or not breathing, but when he's alive,
yeah.
like the relief, it's just such a good feeling of knowing that, okay, he's okay. And then that really sweet ending when Ryan Gosling's on his planet for a little bit and he's teaching them, like he's teaching Willie Young.
Best ending. Oh,
yeah, what a great ending. So good.
Absolutely loved it. And I love how much, I'm not a scientist, but how much believability, how much science they put into thought Andy Weir put into it. You can tell, I mean, he seems to do this with a lot of his movies. There's probably going to be a lot of stuff that will never make it to screen, but the support and the backup as to the technology or the character or the why of what's happening, I think that's so important. And again, bring it back to Star Trek.
Of course, we always do.
It's my thing. So I guess, my father and many people, they'll write a show Bible or a writer's guide. And, they exist. I don't know if you guys have had the chance to read any of them, but they're actually phenomenal. And they give the history of the characters. They give the history of the technology, definitions. There's a section that my father always writes in about believability. And it's not just the believability in the technology, because he would correspond with Caltech and JPL and extrapolate from current day technology to kind of come up with a lot of what existed and make it believable.
Right.
But it's also believability in character behavior.
Yeah.
And he stressed a point that, if he said there's one way to test for this, take your characters in your scene and bring it into what was modern day then. And I think it was around a Vietnam era. And so you've got a captain aboard a Navy cruiser or whatever it was, and you've got a yeoman, whatever, coming up, and there's a missile coming at their ship. Is the captain going to grab her, spin her, and then kiss her passionately, like they did in those classic films when, they had that moment? Or, is he going to take evasive action and do what needs to be done? And he talked that way about the show before it was even made, so that people would understand the tone of each character and the reasoning and the ideas behind them, stuff that may never make it to screen, but it was important for the writers and the directors to know where these characters were coming from. And Andy Weir did a great job of building that universe for that story. So that, I mean, I'm sure you guys have all seen it. There's hundreds of YouTube videos talking about the biology of Rocky and the planets and the technology and how the ships worked and all that. Freaking that is my sci-fi. It is not popcorn. It is not, I don't mean this in a bad way. Star Wars is popcorn sci-fi. Entertaining, fun, great stories. But not based in real science. This is my kind of sci-fi. Absolutely love it. I don't know what else to say about it.
No, you said a lot. You said enough, and that is actually true. And we were very lucky 2 years ago to have Andy on our show, just when the show was in its and he actually qualified why Rocky is who he is based on his planet, the core, the gravitational issues, the fact that did it have a magnetic field. I mean, he thought it all out. So Rocky is believable.
Yes.
And we accept him. And I mean, the one thing I was really loved about it was wherever he went, he always carried his laptop with him because that was his universal translator. We just didn't have him having this conversation. There was a qualification of how he was continuing to have the conversation with Rocky. And I thought that was just, those are the details that make a movie great.
Yeah, that's my sci-fi. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say I went to see it with my wife, and she'll watch Star Trek occasionally with me, especially if there's a neck rub or a shoulder rub involved in it. But she's not really. She doesn't lean towards science fiction at all. But we went to see this film, and she loved every second of it. She was laughing as much as me, and she says, "Man, if all sci-fi was like that,
Yeah.
I'd be way into it." I mean, that's the beautiful thing
It's
about
gateway sci-fi.
yes.
Mhm.
It's a gateway into sci-fi.
That's a good description, Adina. I like
agree with
that.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
get in trouble for saying this, but if all Star Trek was like that,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to listen. This is my thing. I'm not trying to take any credit away
Yeah,
from Andy's
yeah.
original idea. It's freaking phenomenal. I'm
Mhm.
trying to use that as the poster child for what Star Trek could be
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true.
I love it.
and what
Yeah.
Star Trek should be, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
You had mentioned something too, Rod, about believability of the characters. And would they react this way? Would they do this? One of my
Mhm.
favorite Next Gen episodes, and I hope I get the title right of it, it's called The Enemy. And it's when Geordi is trapped on the planet with the Romulan, mortal enemies,
Yeah.
and they've each got a weakness. They've got to figure out how to work together, and they learn about each other. And it's too bad that episode couldn't have been a two-parter, because I would have loved to see more of that interaction between him and that
Mhm.
Romulan
Yeah.
to learn more about just to get in the nitty-gritty more of that. But that for me, I remember that impacting me as a teenage kid at the time of that coming out, just going, holy crap, because I had been through Desert Storm, we'd been through the whole Iraq thing, and so the temperature was there was beginning to be real lines of who your enemies were, right? For me as a young man, for the first time seeing war like that, and that war was broadcast all over television, and so to see that and to be kind of challenged and go, holy cow, like, look what Geordi did. But it wasn't just Geordi, it was the Romulan who
Mhm.
had to adjust, who they had to say, hey, we're not so different. And then, of course, they're both thrust back into their
Yeah.
environments and have to work through that. But I thought that was a beautiful case of Star Trek. Really, the believability. I believe Geordi
Yes.
would adapt and work through that. But what was so beautiful was they showed the Romulan doing the same darn thing. It wasn't just from Geordi's perspective. And you began to root for them as a team. And, of course, at the end of the episode, it was peaceful enough, but of
Yeah,
course
there you
they
go.
still were mortal enemies. But
Is it also the
you know what I'm
episode where
saying.
Picard is like, "Hey, we got to lower shields just to show that we're going to make an act of good faith here"? I think that I can't remember if that's the episode.
That sounds
They're
right.
there,
That sounds
and
right.
he's like, "Mr. Worf, lower the shields." And we just have to show that, hey, we're willing to have a conversation, and we're going to hope that the Romulan also responds.
Oh, in order to beam
They
them
do.
up. They had to do that to
Yeah,
beam them
something
up.
like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But to show, like, to demonstrate that they're good faith, that they're like, I know we're about to come to blows, but I'm going to take the first step and lower my shields. So the Romulan
Absolutely,
knows
yeah.
that, hey, this guy actually wants to have a peaceful conversation. I think
Yeah.
it's that. I should check that out.
That's all it takes, right? Someone has to take that risk. Not to get too lost in nerddom, but one of my favorite movies as well, which fits right in here, is Enemy Mine. I'm sure you
Oh
guys
my
Love
gosh.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, we watched
Yep.
that.
We
How many years ago?
we did a whole
Couple years
episode of
ago?
that.
Did you?
We talked
yeah.
about that a year or two ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is amazing science fiction, amazing
Mhm.
storytelling. And again, I don't want to. Star Trek isn't taking credit for it, but that's amazing Star Trek.
Well,
Yeah.
you look at
But
the
it happens.
series that's going to reemerge from its cocoon in next month, Strange New Worlds,
Mhm.
and last season they had Terrarium, which was probably one of their better, if not one of their top 5 episodes.
The Enemy
was
Mine
that
episode.
same theory, same story there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this question. Don't give us any spoilers, but have you already seen all of season 4 of Strange New Worlds, or is it going to be new to you as much as it is to us?
So for me, I learned early on. I'm clearly very close to Star Trek. I've probably grown even more opinionated than I already was before the new incarnations of Star Trek. And so I find myself being, I'll use the words, overly critical of things and then not being able to enjoy them, or at least not being able to be objective, because the only thing I see are the things that in my mind, when I read the script and I think like, oh, that's going to be, that won't work. And, whatever my mind says about it, that's the only thing I can see when I'm watching the scene. So I minimized my knowledge of these things as much as I can. We still send in our thoughts, ideas, and notes when it's important to. But to answer your question, I try to just watch it. And I'm still incredibly critical, but at least I can get through it without, that voice in my head ruining.
You know what that makes you?
That's not to say that any of it's bad. That is me saying that I am so critical of it that it's a trick for me.
Does that come from a place, though, I imagine, of deep love and concern for the franchise, obviously, or like you want to see it prosper, you want to see it continue on, and you want to see your dad's original vision for it live on?
It's love, it's fear, it's everything. It's looking at humanity right now. It's feeling this incredible weight of responsibility that, yes, there's many ways that people can get their ethics and morals, and it's certainly not all in Star Trek. But again, my world is Star Trek, so my contribution is Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so I feel that Star Trek has a responsibility to paint humans as their better selves, and to show us what we could be one day, and the how they get there, and to not show our insanity right now, our jealousy, our rage, our selfishness. I understand that characters have to have flaws, and that's fine. But I don't like seeing a character behave the way we do today. They should be a level higher or two. They can still make mistakes and fall back, but I just and so when I don't see that, for me, it bothers me. And they'll say, stories need conflict. Again, we just talked about conflict doesn't have to come from a fight, anger, hatred. It can be it can be the nacelles being, an alien can suck the energy out of them, and they have to learn how to communicate with the aliens before it depletes all the energy on the ship. It doesn't have to be that. It's solving problems is what story is. That's what conflict is. Solving problems, not necessarily duking it out.
So I think they started that concept of bringing in people that are more like today and not elevated. Honestly, as much as I do love the character, I think it started Next Generation with Chief O'Brien. I think he was the first instance of the crack in that armor.
Everyman.
Yeah, well, because when we had the episode where we find out that he had basically had these lingering issues from the Cardassian War, right? And
the wounded. Okay.
I'll work with you, but we're not going to be friends. That to me is that first chink in.
Oh, that's so fascinating! I've never heard anybody say that.
Yeah. That's the
less than perfect humans. I feel like TNG is, we always talk about this, probably is the best depiction of like the perfect idealized 24th century, their evolved humans. So you're right. Yeah, I can see O'Brien coming in, having those feelings about Cardassians is more realistic, but maybe the first example of, here's a real person who does have the same struggles that we have.
Here's a 20th century person.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
21st century.
I'm so glad you say that, because that is sort of one of the struggles I have in my own mind with Star Trek, because I understand in order for, not for everyone, but look, I'll just say it because I've said it enough times. Deep Space Nine was not my favorite series. I don't think it's terrible. I think the character drama was fantastic, the character building, but it was for the reasons that we're talking about here, where I think the characters there reflected a lot more of who we are today. Whereas Next Generation reflected more of who we could be.
Yeah.
And while that's great storytelling and great drama and great conflict to have characters at odds and disagreeing and all that sort of stuff, that's great entertainment. And that is a version of great Star Trek. Everything that I've been saying today is just what I like and what I think it should be. And just because I have the last name I have doesn't mean I am the end-all, be-all, knower of everything Star Trek. I'll sit here and say, when it comes to, I'll call it Roddenberry Star Trek. I know, I don't want to say more than anyone because that feels hard to say, but certainly one of the top guys who knows the most about Roddenberry Star Trek.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I will credit or cast myself in.
Yeah, and I feel like
That's fair.
when I think about Trek, as much as I love DS9, I think it's probably my favorite series because of the characters and the drama. But when I think about what is Star Trek, the purest form, I think it's for me, it's TNG. It seems to be the best of. It has a lot of what we loved about TOS, but it has an even more elevated human.
Yeah.
Like, here's what we can become if we work together. And the fact that there's so many people always joke about the conference scenes and like, oh, they're kind of boring. But I love them because it's Captain Picard coming into a situation and having a conversation with his crew as they work out a way to solve the problem, taking input from everybody. And I love it. I just feel like it doesn't get love. But yeah, I think when you think about TNG, to me, it's the purest example of Trek.
Yeah, and that's true leadership. But that scene, that what you describe, I think for me, that is true leadership.
Yeah.
Someone who comes in, listens to the people that are responsible for theirs, listen to what they have to say, and then you make an informed decision based on, you just said, the inputs that he gets from those professionals. That is, I love that.
Well, you know, Rod, what you were saying earlier about being critical and having your opinion stuff, you know what that makes you? That makes you a fan. And that's the one thing about Star Trek. And I think, because my son-in-law loves Star Wars, my grandson loves Star Wars. We're going to go see The Mandalorian Grogu in the theater tomorrow when it comes out. But Star Trek seems, again, since I've watched as a kid, the fans saved the third season. They did that. And the conventions were started for the fans to be able to get a little closer to the whole thing. And I think, to me, it's always been that Star Trek seems to always be fan-driven. Like, they hear what we have to say, and they react to it. And, I think that's, that's what makes it special. And, we talked about the Engaged magazine that Mark puts out with his wife, Lisa. And that's all fan-driven. That's the fans expressing themselves, their love for it. And our conversation right now is about our love for Star Trek and how we express ourselves.
The article Wagon Train to the Stars was phenomenal. So well done.
Oh, you read the Wagons Ho?
I did. A great analysis of it from its inception. And
thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. I appreciate that. I'm getting it from the top. Woohoo!
Highest praise you can get.
That's about it. But we're getting kind of to the end of the line. And is there anything you guys want to share more, or shall we wrap this up? And really appreciate, Rod, for you chatting with us and being so very open with us, and we really appreciate that very, very much. I know the people listen to this will appreciate it as well.
No, I appreciate it, and I've been talking your ear off, and forgive me if I've talked over you or anything like that at all. I just, these topics, you can tell, I think I'm very passionate. Maybe some people might say too much. Again,
nope,
it's my thing, so I'm going to be passionate about it. I don't want to say life is too short, but life is too short. Our world is crazy. Whether it's Star Trek, whether it's your religion, whether it's some other person, thing, or idea that you look up to, we need a whole lot more of that right now, because it seems to be leaning in the other direction too often, and we no more time to fuck around. We need to make the good Star Trek that gets us coming out of the theater cheering and having hope for humanity. Yeah.
Well, I sure hope that's the case. Anything else, Adina, Brian, or Chris? If not, then I'll close by saying, as it was before, as it is now, another excellent discussion with the son of Star Trek's creator, Gene Roddenberry. It is always a pleasure to have you on our podcast, someone of his caliber and his love for Star Trek. Now, as you can hear, Rod not only walks the walk, but he talks the talk. And he's passionate about himself, and he truly passionate about, we're passionate for what he has to say. And we're privileged to have him to discuss all these topics that we did today. And, we hope he had a lot of fun. And you know what? We could always go for thirds from the buffet table. So, if that's fine with you, Rod, we'd love to chat back with you in the future as to where Star Trek is going and science fiction in general and life, the universe, and everything. So number 42.
Number 42. That would be. I love it. No, thank you guys for having me. It was awesome.
As always, thank you, Rod, for being on the podcast. Yeah, we all love science fiction. We all love Star Trek. And through both, we can examine the human condition. So thank you for everyone listening to another episode of the Big Sci Fi Podcast. Be sure to be ready for another subspace message from us. You never know what TV show, movie, book, or interesting guests will be on the next episode. So as always, I leave you with these parting words. Look to the sky. Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Big Sci Fi Podcast. We're a proud part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and you can listen to more of our over 150 episodes at trekgeeks.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel now. Until next time, live long and prosper.